The Mayan civilization began in 2000 BC and started to collapse around 750 AD when they began to abandon their cities en masse. They had to go somewhere, and this stone nearby could be a clue they came to the U.S.
Are you Scott?
Yes, Gary Daniels, I presume?
That's correct.
All right. Great weather, a little wet today, but I gotta tell you, I think the rock looks better wet than if it was dry.
I agree.
What makes this rock specifically tied to the Maya-Georgia connection in your mind?
Both cultures, the Maya and the Creek Indians, used the exact same symbols to record the exact same event.
Well, you know, Gary, I clearly see these spiral symbols here. We got an indentation in the middle. This one has a couple of different rings with an indentation, and then we have these cupules along the top. I know what I think it is, but what do you see?
And my first impression was that it's a star map. I believe that this records an event which happened in 536 AD, which was a comet impact event, and that would explain why they went through the effort to carve this into this boulder. This was no easy task.
No, it wasn't, and I have to say, Gary, that I agree with you. I'm pretty convinced this is a star map as well. It's an interesting connection with the impact and the symbols tying the creek with the Maya. I think that's plausible, but this might not be the only geologic clue that makes a connection. Tell me what you know about Maya blue.
Now, Maya blue was a pigment that the Maya used in their murals, and it lasts a very long time without fading.
And I think I understand the reason for that. Maya blue is a very interesting combination of a clay mineral called palygorskite that they mix with an indigo pigment made from an anil plant. And there's lots of palygorskite in Georgia, but relatively little of it in Mexico. Gary, I think that the Maya blue in Mexico could have been made with the palygorskite clay in Georgia.
There are still sites in Mexico where they haven't found the actual source for the Maya blue, so that's definitely a good thing to look into.
So we've got the Maya blue pigment mystery as well as star maps both there and in Georgia. That's interesting.
And those are not the only connections. It goes much deeper than that. Now check these out. This copper plate was unearthed in North Georgia. What's interesting about this is that almost an identical image as this was found at Chichen Itza in the Yucatan.
Wow, this looks like some type of shaman or somebody in the middle of a ritual. Is that a severed head?
Yep.
And you have this in Chichen Itza as well?
Exactly.
Wow. Are there any other sites that might tie into what we're looking at here?
Absolutely. Just a few hours from here, there's a site called Okmulgee. They found an elite burial that showed cranial deformation, a known technique in the Maya world that they also use on their elites. Cranial deformation is a procedure they did at birth where they placed the child on a flattened board, placed another board on his head, which forced the skull to grow in a certain shape, which gave them sort of a flattened appearance to the forehead.
With everything I've seen so far, how come nobody knows about this?
People have been writing in the literature, the archaeological literature, about this connection for 150 years, but it has become a taboo subject.
I'm continually amazed every time I see something new that changes history in a profound way, and it gets ignored, swept under the rug, and people that even dare to investigate it get criticized. I've been through that myself. You got to figure out a way to make it stop.
Yeah, they say science changes one death at a time, and I think that's what it's going to take.
You know what? I'm not going to wait for these people to die. Sorry. I'm going to get answers. Let's go to Okmulgee. So how how long have you been studying this Maya-Georgia connection?
Well, I've been researching the Georgia-Mexico connection for about 10 years, but it was only within the last couple of years that I really stumbled on the Mayan presence in both Florida and Georgia.
Okay. What do you think of Richard Thornton's research?
You know, Mr. Thornton has presented a hypothesis, and that hypothesis needs to be tested. Is the Track Rock site a Mayan site? You know, I don't know. Could it be? Absolutely, it could be. But we're never going to know that as long as the academics are insisting that it can't be.
So instead of sitting in your chair talking about it, actually getting out there doing something.
Absolutely. Making proclamations about what it isn't serves no purpose.
I agree. Wow. Man.
Take a look at this. This is that mound.
It's a spiral mound, isn't it? That's without the vegetation. Well, now I can kind of see it. Can we take a closer look?
Let's go.
All right. We got mounds in Minnesota, but I haven't seen any this big. Wow.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I see at least 1, 2,
4 or
3.
5 levels.
Even maybe a fifth one up there. This is cool as hell.
There's a site called Xochitecatl in Mexico, and it's the only other place in North America or Central America that has a spiral mound exactly like this, where you follow the spiral to the top. Not only that, it's laid out exactly like a mound site here, with the spiral mound on one end and the square mound on the other. This mound, the Creek Indians said this is where they perform their snake dance. And so they marched in procession around the mound until they reached the top for their ceremony. There was also Lake Okeechobee. Now, when the Spanish came to Lake Okeechobee, they found 3 people living around that lake: the Maya Imi, the Mayaka, and the Maya Uaki. So 3 people calling themselves Maya.
Is there also maybe a connection to Miami?
Absolutely.
This is really incredible. I had no idea that there would be a spiral mound here. We have spiral mounds in Mexico. This Maya-Georgia connection is really starting to come together, and I'm feeling it. Well, Gary, you promised me some archaeoastronomy. I see a beautiful mound structure here with a long doorway that's facing pretty close to due east.
According to the Creek migration legend, the very first structure they built when they arrived here was a mound with a central chamber. The doorway of this earth lodge aligned with the sunrise.
There's no question that the Mayans also aligned their temples and their structures according to archaeoastronomy.
So, is this purely a coincidence? Clearly there was something going on.
This is fascinating. I mean, we've got 2 large mounds. We've got this one here that has an obvious alignment both to the sun and to the stars. We've got that amazing spiral structure, the cranial deformation. I'm dying to go to Mexico. If I can find some of the things that are here over there, we've got something that's huge.